Coming up today on Harvest, former U.S. diplomat and father of four, Gregory Slayton, joins us to talk about 10 tools every father needs.
Father of four, Gregory W. Slayton, says it's never too late to become the best dad that you can be. And Greg doesn't beat around the bush when it comes to being a dad. He believes that the future of civilization depends on how dads do their job. Good to have you with us today, sir.
Thanks. Real pleasure to be with you both.
Now, that's quite a big statement. The future of civilization depends on how dads do their job.
Well, it really does. It really does. And that's not an exaggeration. You look back through history, 10,000 years of recorded history, as far back as we can see, there's never been a society that didn't depend on the family at its core. And families depend, of course, on mothers, but also very much on fathers.
Tell us a little bit about your story. We're going to be talking about how to be a better dad today. But you've got quite an interesting background. So you've got the president, well, the White House seal on your jacket there, served under President George W. Bush, 43, and President Barack Obama, and a diplomatic corps.
Yes,
what was that experience like?
Well, obviously, representing, serving your country is a great honor, and we were absolutely thrilled to have that opportunity and to serve under both President Bush, who's a personal friend of mine and a man I deeply respect, and President Obama, whom I didn't know, but who was kind enough to extend me in the role I had, and both of whom are really fine fathers, and I have a lot of respect for them for many reasons, obviously, but to be a good dad while you're being the President of the United States is a real challenge, and they both do it well.
Yeah. For dads that kind of have to go here and there, on the road, distance, what impact or effect does distance have on fatherhood?
It has a big impact, and it's something that we see growing. It's a trend. What I call long-distance dads is a rapidly growing trend in our country. In fact, there's an entire chapter in the book, Be a Better Dad Today, specifically written for long-distance dads, whether you're a military dad or whether you've been posted maybe an overseas assignment with your company. And the great news is you can really still have a very positive and productive impact on your family, even, 10,000 miles away.
Now, how do you overcome that? Because, I mean, it's very easy to imagine, a kid who, there's some animosity there because, Dad, you're never there for me, or you missed my baseball game, or whatever, because you're on the road, or, how do you repair that?
Well, first of all, I'm not saying it's easy. You're absolutely right. It is not easy. However, the key is, with all fatherhood, the first thing is recognizing how important it is and making the effort. And that's why the first whole section of the book, Be a Better Dad Today, is really devoted to the importance of fatherhood, because it's something our society has forgotten by and large. Other things, making a lot of money or becoming really successful or really famous or whatever. But the reality is fatherhood's the only job that any of us are going to have for eternity, right? For the rest of our lives and beyond. And it's a job that impacts not just our children, our children's children, but frankly, the wider civilization. And the reality is, as a long-distance dad, of course, it's critical when you get back home to spend time with the kids. But even when you're away, and a lot of men in the military, in fact, we're giving this book away for free to U.S. Military soldiers around the world. Men in the military are spending more and more time with their kids. For instance, reading a book at night via Skype to your kids. Simple stuff like that can have a huge impact.
Now, how do you strike a balance? Because I can imagine, a kid maybe gets into a little bit of trouble. You want to discipline them, and they're going, well, you're never around. So, the natural inclination is for the dad to just kind of feel guilty about the fact that, maybe you haven't been around, and so you kind of are a little more lackadaisical on the disciplinary side.
Well, discipline is something we deal with a lot in the book because it's so important to get it right. And I like the old rule of thumb, the 10-to-1 rule of thumb. 10 times the praise and attaboys and way to go. Bingo. 10 times the affirmation for 1 time the criticism. Now, discipline's important, and as you say, you've really got to get that balance right. And it all depends on what the situation is in the family, how old the kids are, how sensitive they are. We have 4 different children, same mom, same dad, tried to raise them the same, very different in terms of how they receive, criticism and discipline. So it really is a case-by-case basis, but it's important to get that balance right.
And you do talk about that as well, about learning the individuality of your kids and the importance of seeing those distinctions. So it's not really a cookie-cutter, boilerplate template that fits everybody.
No, there isn't. I did have the great chance, and I didn't have a real father growing up, and became a Christian in college, and realized that, one, I kind of did want to get married. Before I became a Christian, I was like, no way, I'm not doing that again. That was a disaster. And then realized I wanted to get married, wanted to have a father, and I wanted to have a family, but didn't really know anything about this fatherhood thing. Studied fatherhood on 5 different continents, and started to recognize some real similarities between effective dads, whether it was Africa or India or South America, whatever. And that's what I've written in the book, The 10 Tools of Fatherhood. And those 10 tools, I do believe, are effective around the world. And we guys, we get the fact that you need tools. You can't build a successful TV network, as you guys have. Congratulations. You can't even repair your kid's bicycle without the right tools. And that's why the 10 tools of fatherhood are so important. But how you apply those tools, that's the key. And there is no cookie cutter, because each kid is different.
What do you think is missing from our fathers today in our modern society, or is it just the fact that fathers are missing, period?
I think, first and foremost, I think it's that so many dads have just checked out. And it's so unfortunate, because not only is it horrible for the kids, and the statistics are very clear in terms of all the social pathologies that our young people are facing today. So many of them are driven directly from fatherhood failure and fatherhood absence. But also, it's obviously bad for the wife, but it's bad for us as men. I mean, this eternal, like, juvenile syndrome, where we're always going to be doing exactly what we want and not caring about anybody else and not bearing anybody else's burdens. That's not what we were meant to do. And we as men really, I believe, shortchange ourselves in that process.
You say that 40% of children today suffer from father failure, which is different than absence. So what is father failure?
Well, father failure is a combination of, first of all, those guys who are just completely absent. And those people, like my father when I was young, who was in the home sometimes, out of the home, couldn't really depend on him, didn't really know where he was, didn't really know what he was doing. You know, my father was unfortunately an alcoholic and had some other issues, and God bless him, he's long dead now. But so fatherhood failure is any one of those combinations. It's really any father who's not having an effective, positive role in his children's life. And it is devastating in terms of the long-term consequences for those kids.
With your dad, was there ever reconciliation, or how did things wind up?
You know, I so wish that there had been. My father got more and more absent from our life. And then after I became a Christian, I went to Africa with World Vision International and served for 3 years. I contracted acute viral hepatitis and was medically evacuated to New York Hospital on my deathbed. And my father somehow, even though he'd been cut himself off from the family at that point, found out about it.
Wow.
And he called, and I was so, even though he'd cut himself off and said he didn't want to talk to me anymore, but he called, and I was just happy to talk to him. And we talked for about 90 seconds. And then the weirdest thing, and I'll obviously never forget this, he said, hey, I got to go. Something's come up, you know, dog's barking or something. And I'll call you back in just a couple of minutes. 25 years later, he'd never called back, and he'd never taken any of my calls. And so that was the end. But the reality is, you know, we all have a heavenly Father.
Right.
And for a long time, it was very painful to see, you know, gosh, all my buddies had dads, like, what about me?
Yeah.
But I realized in becoming a Christian and growing in the faith that I've got a heavenly Father. We each have a heavenly Father that loves us really, truly, deeply. And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and that kind of fills that gap.
It does. Yeah. I mean, look, it would have been great to have an earthly father, but I've been blessed in so many ways. I've got a fantastic wife, 4 beautiful kids. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you guys. What could be better?
What could be better? Well, we're going to continue sitting and talking, and we're going to get down to the nuts and bolts of being a better dad today with Gregory Slayton in just a moment, right after this. All right, we're back with Gregory W. Slayton, and we got Father's Day coming up not too far around the corner.
Yes, sir.
So, very apropos topic, how to be a better dad today, and a great resource as well. You kind of start things off about the importance of fatherhood, but then you kind of throw this term out there about a noble family vision. Explain that.
Yeah, this basically comes from the idea that nothing great in life is done just by accident. You know, a team doesn't win the Super Bowl, You don't build a successful broadcasting network. You don't build a successful company by accident. Same thing with a family. You don't just build it by accident, but how few guys actually think about, hey, what's the plan for the family? Where are we trying to go? And you know, it's very, very vital for us as the leaders of our family, along with our wives, of course, and I should say servant leaders of our family. It's important for us to kind of keep the end in mind. Where am I trying to go? Where do we want to go as a family in 20, 30, 40 years? And that's the idea of a noble family vision. And we talk a lot about that. There's an entire chapter devoted to that in the book.
And I would imagine for most guys, it's not so much that they don't want to plan. They don't know how to plan. They don't know what the plan should be.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's why this is not an academic, intellectual book about a lot of theory. This is a very much hands-on this is a man's book for men. Roll up your sleeves and kind of here's how we can do it together. Because I am also a learner on the fatherhood journey, and I've got a lot to learn. I've learned a lot from guys who have gone before me and guys who have poured into me as mentors, and Chuck Colson, who wrote the foreword, for instance, was one of my mentors, a great man. And this, I hope, will be a blessing to the readers. And also I want to mention we're giving 100% of the royalties to Christian fatherhood charities. So I really hope it'll be a double blessing, one to the reader, and then for every book that's sold, about $2 will go to some of the best fatherhood charities in America.
Yeah. Let's get down to some of the tools. You have 10 tools of fatherhood there. What are those 10, or some of those 10 tools that really key off as extremely important in your eyes?
Very good. Well, the 10 tools are outlined in the acronym FATHERHOOD. So the first tool, not by accident, is the F tool, Family First, Family Fun. And there's an entire chapter devoted to that tool, and there's a 30-day put it to work section. So all of us can practice if we want to in that particular tool. And the reason that tool's first is because it really is so important for us to put our family first. Doesn't mean quit our job. Most of us can't do that. But it does mean when we're home, we're spending at least some positive, productive time every day. It can be 5 minutes. We're spending some good quality time every day with the kids and with the wife, and we're really making it fun. You know, when the kids are great students, if we're just, gritting our teeth and waiting until we can turn on the game or call our friend Bob or go out for drinks with our buddies, the kids know that. On the other hand, if we're sitting there and we're having fun and we're asking little Johnny about how his day was, maybe we're playing a board game or we're out riding the bikes together, something, that says to Johnny or Sally,
you're important.
You're important.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. And how important is, having a contingency? Because it seems like when you make a plan, the one thing that definitely happens is it doesn't go exactly the plan.
Always. But this is how kids learn, right? Kids learn because they see how things change. I've got a wonderful friend, and once a month, he and his son do something. The first Saturday of every month, they do something really, really kind of out there. Once they went down to Cape Canaveral to look at space launch. But sometimes I'll just do a camping trip or something. And things happen, stuff has to change. And my buddy Pete, he always says, look, this is great because my son sees that life doesn't always go according to plan. You have to improvise. And you need one of the other tools, which we talk about, which is kind of the ability to make good decisions on the fly, what we call a true moral compass.
When it comes to faith and building a fiber of faith in the family, what are some of the important ways or creative ways that dads can do that?
Well, this, in fact, is to the true moral compass, the T tool in the fatherhood acronym. The first and most important thing that we dads have to make sure we're doing is that we're growing in our own faith. I really believe that there's no standing still in the Christian life. You're either moving forward or you're not. It's like an airplane. You don't, there's no such thing as like, oh, stall. That's that down. So the true moral compass is something that we have to have. We have to be developing. Of course, we all make mistakes. Everybody does. But we have to be developing ourselves if we're going to pass that on to our children. And it's something that, like so many things in fatherhood, more is caught than is taught. One of the things I saw in my study of fatherhood around the world is that one of the most disastrous things dads can do is the do as I say, not as I do method of fatherhood. That is an absolute disaster. No matter where you are in the world, it doesn't work because kids pick up right away on hypocrisy, and they just don't buy it.
I think what's difficult is so many times perhaps we don't feel qualified anymore to be that spiritual head of the family because every guy is a human. He's going to make a mistake. He tries to be that, that spiritual head of the household, but then he falls, he makes a mistake, his kids see that he's not necessarily who they thought he was, and he feels disqualified from being that person?
Well, I think the whole idea of God's grace for us, is that the Lord knows. He knows our weakness, and He still made you and the viewer and me the head of our household, the father of our family, servant leaders to our families.
So how do guys kind of power through those?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm going there. That's why the T tool is actually a dual tool, the T in the fatherhood. It's true moral compass and true humility. Because those things go together, because we all make mistakes. And being able to go to our family and say, I've messed this up. I'm sorry I got mad at mom or blew my stack or whatever it is. Look, all these things happen. But to be strong enough to go to our kids and say, Johnny, I'm really sorry I wasn't there at your baseball game or whatever it is. I apologize, or whatever it was. I'm going to make it right. And I'm asking you for forgiveness. That is powerful. That is powerful. And a lot of people in American culture would say, no, that's only weak men do that. Truth is, only strong men can do that. That's the truth.
Gregory, with the issue of home breakups and single-parent families and all, for a blended family or for a family that there's been a separation there, how can a dad still be a dad, so to speak, and have a positive impact on their sons and daughters?
Yeah, it's a very, very important question, especially today, as unfortunately divorce is on the rise. There is an entire chapter in the book on single families, blended families, kind of what we call special situations, which are extremely important. And the first thing to encourage any dad who is estranged maybe from his children in some way is it is possible to get back in the game. It's possible to not only get back in the game, but to really have a positive impact on your kids. We talk about a number of things. One thing that might not be popular for some dads, but no matter what happened, if you're estranged from your wife, you're divorced, or maybe never got married, you must treat the mother of your children with respect, with kindness, and with decency. And that is absolutely vital, because how else are our kids going to learn how a man and a woman are supposed to relate? That's for sure. There are going to be other opportunities, but the primary lesson they're going to learn, the primary workbook, is going to be from your relationship with their mom. And it is vital that it be good.
Do you think that you were inspired to really dig into the subject because your dad wasn't necessarily what you would have wanted him to be?
No question, no question. But that's the way the Lord works, isn't it? I mean, he took what clearly was very painful in the lives of my brothers and I, and by God's grace, it has brought something out of it. And I'm just thankful.
Yeah. You also talk about whole person support.
Yes.
Explain that concept and how it's kind of fleshed out.
Well, dynamic whole person support is the D tool in fatherhood. And the reason we talk about this is that so many guys, myself very much included for years, really thought that supporting my family was a financial thing. If I just provided the money, then, hey, mom will take care of everything else, And in point of fact, that was really unfair. Yeah, I mean, financial support, very important. And sometimes it can be from both mom and dad, frequently dad, sometimes mom. But no matter what, there are other points of support that are, frankly, I will say equally important, because emotional support for our children. A lot of times, a lot of distant dads, the old North Midwest, kind of the Swedish descendants who, I told my wife I loved her when I married her, and that's enough. You've heard that joke, right? Intellectual support, reading to your kids, making sure that they're intellectually curious, answering their questions about, Daddy, where'd the stars come from and stuff like that. That's vitally important. Physical support. Obesity and diabetes are epidemic levels in the United States today. Making sure that our kids have the right kind of foods and get out and do a little exercise. Making sure that I myself am not a couch potato and just giving them the wrong, the wrong leadership on that. So all these types of support are vitally important, and you need all four of them, because if you have three and it's like a car's on a tire, you have three pumped up and one that's flat, it doesn't work too well.
Yeah. Well, we got time for one more question, Gregory. If there's one thing you could say to fathers watching today who want to be better dads, what would you tell them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, God bless you. Thank you for watching. Thanks for wanting to be a better dad. That's really important. It's the most important job we're ever going to have. 2, you got a Heavenly Father that's right there. You got to ask His help. You got to be humble about it, and you got to be sincere. But if you are, He's going to help you. And 3, just please, pray for me, pray for all dads. Prayer is powerful, and pray for your family. I've seen some miracles in changes in my heart, and sometimes physical miracles, because praying for your kids is so powerful.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. Again, great timing. We've got Father's Day right around the corner. Gregory W. Slayton, beabetterdadtoday.com. Beabetterdadtoday.com is his website. If you'd like to connect, pick up a copy of this great resource for yourself or for a loved one. As always, you can go to harvest-tv.com. That's our website. Click on Show Info in the menu bar. You'll find the easy way to link back to Gregory's website as well. Brian Bush coming up next. You're on The Harvest Show.